call the Township of Hamilton December 4th committee meeting to order. Stand for the flag salute, please. Roger.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rita?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9, 2017, and the Atlantic County Record on January 11, 2017. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mrs. Link? Mr. Schenker?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Here. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for private reflection and ask that we remember Robert Moose Motley, Bob Motley's father, who passed away last week. We have some guest presentations tonight. First, we'd like to get the annual report from the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. I want to call on the chairman, Diane Fox. Come on up, Diane.
He's really...
Mr. Mayor and Committee. Well, we had another busy year. So 2017, we started something new. We did a speaker series. So we had 3 speaker series: Medicare, Medicaid, estate planning, and dementia. In September, we held the health fair out at the Hamilton Mall that I think went very well. We had about 50 people that attended the health fair. We attended the Hometown Celebration and Fall Festival. We attended the St. Vincent Senior Luncheon. In October, we had the principal from the Oakcrest High School attend our meeting, and we're going to start an intergenerational program with them. We've already started a little bit. We have some seniors that we helped clean up their lawns. And we had seniors from Woodview Estates attend their practice for their holiday presentation and dance recital. So we're looking forward to that. So 2008, we're going to continue our speaker series, plan for another health fair with the mall, and expand our intergenerational program.
Wow.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's great, Diane.
Like had a very active year.
You sure did.
Sure
And
was.
the thing, the one at the health fair at the mall was exceptional.
Yes, it
I
was.
really thought it was well attended, well laid out, and the mall seems like it was a great place to
Very
do
nice
that.
to work with, yes.
Yeah, well, we want to thank you as the chairman and all the board members for everything they do. It's a great board, and you guys are really on top of it. Of course, if there's anything we can do at the township here from the board, just give us let us know. We'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to call up Carol Wright. If Carol would come up, she's going to sponsor a donation to the Hamilton Township Police Department K-9 unit from PAL. Carol, the mic is yours.
See how I have to get it a little lower. So I'm going to back out of the scene in a second, but I just want to real quick, PAL has been in existence now entering the 22nd year. Diane Allen Garvey has been with PAL since the very beginning, and her daughters have come through, and now another daughter coming through. So we have Lonnie and Christine, and they're going to present our K-9 donation. We're hoping to raise funds later down the road, but this is a little help in the meantime.
Okay.
Get Charlie up there, John, to take a picture of that check. Charlie?
Charlie, would you like to get a picture of the check? They're going to turn it around. You can come up if you'd like. Guys, turn around towards the audience if you would. That's great.
The dog is
Wait till the dog receives
out of
that check.
control.
You'll buy a lot of dog food with that.
You should throw a bone.
Yeah. Now you stay there.
Gosh.
Wants to play.
Yeah, look at him.
Sounds like my dog when he wants to play.
Is it posing?
That's great.
Great. If anyone would like, yes, thank you.
Buy a lot of biscuits.
A lot of biscuits.
Dog.
My dog does that too with his paws. Like he uses his paws as his hands.
I know he's chewing on that.
Dogs
Thing.
do that.
Hey, somebody here on your bike.
Latest one.
Yeah.
I'm voting
Jan.
for him.
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to talk, Jenny?
No, I'm just coordinating with things.
You
Okay.
can't help it.
Oh, yes,
Can't help it.
I understand.
Let her go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's a new
Thank you,
dog.
Carol.
That's a new dog, huh? Teenager, I guess. Rambunctious.
Noisiest
more.
police dog.
Okay, we'll move on. Addition and deletion of late agenda items tonight, we have none. Early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for public hearing. Mike?
No one has signed up, Mayor.
No one signed up. And then we're going to get down to 3. Discussions, formal actions may be taken. Public hearing on a 5-year tax exemption abatement agreement with the SIJ Group LLC, Block 1029, Lot 1, 5176 Harding Highway. I don't know if Bill's not here. Mike, would you like to just touch on this real quick?
Well, we have to have a witness.
He's here.
Yeah.
I thought he was here. Right here.
Oh, okay, very good. Yes.
Okay, would you mind
If you'd step up to the mic, please.
Could you state your name for the record, please, sir?
Troy Adams.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
How you doing, Troy?
Are you,
Good, how are you?
Good.
are you the person here on behalf of the applicant?
I am. I'm the Director of Real Estate for NFI, and we own the warehouse at 5176 Harding Highway.
Okay, and for the record, this is block 1029, lot 1? True?
Yes.
And is there a building situated on that property?
Yes, there is.
And can you explain the situation in terms of the building needing rehabilitation?
Sure. So we purchased, and when I say we, it's SIJ Group LLC, which is a real estate entity. We purchased the building in 2001. The building at the time was occupied and remained occupied up until about 2014, at which time the tenant left the building. And just for record, the building is about 152,000 square feet. So the tenant that was in there was a kind of glass company that used to be part of Wheaton Glass. So everybody kind of knows the building as the old Wheaton Glass building. They left in 2014, moved up into North Jersey, and 2014 was right when the economy was doing not so great, so the building sat vacant up until earlier this year. The building had severely leaking roof that was beyond repair, and just really suffered neglect. There was, it's a metal building, so there were rust stains that showed through, and you know, it was built for a single user, so tough to find somebody to come in and take the entire 152,000 square feet.
And you put an application in for an exemption under the ordinance?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and tell the committee what it is your plans are to do in terms of rehabilitation to the building.
Sure. So we put the application in. The plans are for a new roof, repainting of the building, all sides, all new heat, new loading doors, new office space, a bunch of interior cleanup. We rewired a lot of the building and separated all the utilities so that it would be more functional for smaller users, 25 to 50,000 square feet.
And according to your application, you have a number of tenants in the building currently.
We do.
Could you tell the board who they are?
Sure. We have a company called ACM Excel. It's a manufacturer. They make aluminum. They take sheets of aluminum. It's architectural aluminum, and it goes on the facades of buildings. So they're in 35,000 square feet. We have a local company that provides services to the boat industry here, a company called Mahogany.
We've never heard of that company, by the way.
I figured. So they have been able to consolidate and expand their operation. They're in about 52,000 square feet. And then the third tenant is a company called Barrett Outdoor Living. They are the group that bought the old Lennox plant over in Egg Harbor. And from what I understand, their business is doing extremely well over there. They're out of space, and so our warehouse provides both finished product and raw material storage for them so that they can continue to expand their production.
And then according to your application, there were other general warehouse items that valued about $800,000. Is that true?
So the roof alone was about $800,000. And then there is about another $1.2 million that's been put into the building. Of the capital expenses, though, the roof is the majority of that.
So the exact number on your application is $1,935,165. Does that sound accurate to you?
That does.
Okay. Now, you are aware of our ordinance here in Hamilton Township?
I am.
All right. And you're seeking an exemption pursuant to ordinance number 269-26 for the record. This is not an abatement, this is an exemption. And this can be accomplished by resolution and not by ordinance. And we do not need a tax agreement, which makes it easier for these folks. All right. Do you understand giving an opinion to a reasonable degree of certainty?
I do.
It means more likely than not. Okay? And do you believe more likely than not, if this were approved, it would maintain or provide gainful employment?
Yes, I do.
Why do you believe that?
Because without those capital improvements, those jobs would not come to that building.
Do you believe to a reasonable degree of certainty that it would assist in economic development?
I do.
Why do you believe that?
The jobs that are created, the capital investment that's created, we would want to make sure that that by investing in the building, those investments are protected through the exemption.
Do you believe to a reasonable degree of certainty it would maintain or increase the tax base
Yes, I do.
by enhancing the value of the property?
From an aesthetic and functional standpoint, yes.
And finally, do you believe it would diversify, expand commerce within the township?
Yes, I do.
And that's because of the diversity of the tenants that you would bring in?
That's right. It's worked exactly how we'd hoped. We've
And
brought
you-
in some new tenants that were new to the area, and we've expanded some that were already in the town.
And will you have other space available for new tenants other than the three that you mentioned?
We have some office space that's available.
Okay. And finally, just for my curiosity, did the fact that the township developed the abatement and exemption ordinance facilitate your decision to improve this property?
It did. So I don't recall the exact date that it was that the exemption was kind of first discussed. It was within the last 2 years, I believe. And so quickly thereafter, we started to see the activity, and we were able to justify the investment in the building.
Mr. Mayor, that's all the questions that I have. I believe that that satisfies the requirements of the ordinance, but that is your call.
Thank you.
Each one of you have the ability to address any questions to the applicant that you desire.
Troy, my understanding is that the space is pretty much leased out now, or do you still have a significant amount?
It is. The warehouse space has been 100% leased. I'm happy to report.
That's great. That's really good news. You're doing a great job there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Troy, over the years, we've watched that building, since it's been almost vacated, deteriorate. And I think now that I pass it every day, it's really a pleasure to see the amount of money that you invested in there from all of the siding and the roof, and it shows off very well. So I think not only have you been able to rent that space out, but it's also complements the area that it's in. And we thank you for what you've been doing there.
Well, absolutely, and, we've been fortunate. We wanted to do the right thing. I think the painting of the building, the tenants that are there don't need it, but they like having it. It's something that they feel proud of, and importantly for us, we wanted to make sure that people driving by saw that, didn't see what used to be there. And within the next 2 weeks, I think we just received our permit last week, we will have a new monument sign that will be lit, that will go up, that will really, I think, stand out so that
That'll be
folks can
nice.
see it.
Troy, do you have any estimates of how many jobs have been brought in or will be brought in as a result of?
Yeah, so it is about 20, I'm told. Most of the new jobs were created through ACM Excel, and those are manufacturing jobs. The rest of the jobs are material handling and general warehouse.
Are some of those new or?
I believe that they are. I can't speak for the tenants exactly. I don't know if some of the folks from Barrett, for example, may have already been working over in Egg Harbor.
Okay.
But that's what we see every day in the building is about 20.
And where are you headquartered? Where's your company headquartered?
So our company is headquartered in Cherry Hill.
Thank you.
Is there any other evidence you would like to bring to the board? This is a public hearing.
None at this time.
You should open it up to the public at this time.
Yes. Is there any members of the public that wish to address this item? Harry, come on up.
Harry Rogers, 1069 Morningside Drive. Just for the record, I do sit on the planning board for Hamilton Township, and we've discussed these tax exemptions and abatements numerous times for other improvements within the township. My question is this a blanket exemption, an abatement, or is it just on the capital improvements that they've made to the property since they've taken possession?
Bob?
Harry, under the ordinance, there's two separate sections. One is an abatement section, which requires a taxpayer agreement and an ordinance. That's not what this is. This is under the exemption portion of the ordinance. It does not affect the taxation or valuation of the land component. It does not affect the taxation of the existing structural component. It provides relief only to the added improvements. So in this case, the added improvements are about $1.9 million. The abatement would be 100% in the first year, 80%, 60%, 40, and 0. In the fifth year, after the fifth year, it becomes 100% taxable for the added value of the land. Does that answer your question?
That's consistent with what we've done with our other properties.
It is.
I think that's excellent prospect.
I don't know to add, Terry, and I think Troy would attest to this. The number of people that'll be occupying that building, they'll patronize a lot of the local businesses in the area.
Absolutely.
And I think the ancillary benefit is yet to come from that.
No argument there. It's just, are we being fair with this applicant as we have with other applicants?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Great, thank you,
I'm
Harry.
sure Troy would have said something if he felt otherwise, right, Troy?
Thanks, Harry. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to comment? Jim, come on up.
John, is this property located in a historic district?
No.
Not?
No.
Move to close.
Thank you.
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstain. And this is a two parts, 3A and B. So now, item B, we have a resolution, B, a resolution approving request for 5-year tax exemption in the industrial park for renovation/repair of the old warehouse, block 1029, lot 1. Committee?
I move that resolution.
Second.
Before there's a vote on the motion, I need to represent to you that I've discussed this with our assessor. And under the ordinance as written, the application first goes to the assessor. He has deemed it complete and in compliance with the balance of the ordinance, which is one of the procedural requirements that you need to know before you vote on it.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Very good. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Keep the tenants coming, Troy.
Keep them coming. Troy, take care. 3C, discussion. Proposed county ordinance regarding Lake Lenape Park. Bob, could you elaborate on this a little bit before we get into it here?
Yeah. The idea here was to allow the consumption of alcohol at the park in places and events other than the wine festival. The existing ordinance provides the wine festival as a special event. And this ordinance came before the county. This is not our ordinance. And it was reviewed by Rita Martino and myself, and Rita had some significant questions. Because procedurally, unless somebody from the county signs off before it gets to her, she perceived that to be a problem. Now, I won't put words in your mouth, Rita, but was that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So Rita and I had a conference call with Jim Ferguson, who is county counsel, and they are going to institute a procedure where somebody who is authorized to sign off on the county will do so before it gets to Rita. So procedurally, that takes care of our problem. There are portions of what's going to happen here which are beyond us, which we can't control because the county owns the park. We want to be cooperative, but we want to follow the ABC guidelines. There are other events where a certain type of license holder could come into the park. We don't understand that yet, and I guess Rita and I are going to have to deal with that as it happens. But we can't tell the county not to pass it. We can't tell the county to pass it. It's their place. It's their ordinance.
Understood.
But at least we have taken the steps to alleviate the concerns of our municipal clerk on what she perceived to be the main issues. I perceive this to be a working document that's going to be amended in the future based on experience. And I don't think you should take a position, I don't know, it's up to you. One way or the other, you don't have jurisdiction, you know?
No, I understand. But they're asking for a recommendation, is that correct?
Well, I think you could do that.
Yeah.
I live near the park. It's a beautiful facility. I've been to
Yeah.
just about every event there, and I think it's probably underutilized. And this may alleviate that and give it more utility.
And for the public that's here, this ordinance, the alcoholic beverage consumption rules for the park were changed when the Merchants Association approached the county on the Food and Wine Festival that's been very successful out there. And we've had this come before us before, and it was there was a lot of questions on it. But I noticed reading through it that some of the questions we brought up that time have been addressed. That specifically this refers to Lake Lenape Park East. Am I correct?
You are.
So because there was an issue about not allowing alcoholic consumption on the other side, over where the campground is, things like that, they were very valid. They were brought up by members of this group. Also, they set a security, special events include that involve alcohol require a special security deposit. It also has to be a permit issued by the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. And they need a minimum of a $2 million liquor liability required for all events serving alcohol. So they really did a lot, I think, working on this since the first time that we talked about it with Amy Gatto was here in the audience to discuss it. So I just want to leave it at that. There's no action on this other than a vote or anything, so we're just going to recommend, or do we need to take a vote to recommend?
Well, if you're going to recommend it, you need to take a vote.
Okay.
Do we need to recommend?
Do you need to? No.
Yes.
I have a question.
You don't. But the county is seeking, because we're the host community, that you support it.
To bless it, yeah.
I have a question. Chief, will they run some of these applicants by you?
The ABC applications
Come to you?
Right.
Now, obviously, they put a lot of money into that facility, and they want to utilize it. They want to utilize that portion of the building, which it's my understanding they do not have a kitchen in there. Am I correct? Correct. So if anything were to come in there, it probably would be catered. But at the same token, I think since we're all public safety minded, where does this put us when they have an event within that building, such as a wedding and et cetera, et cetera?
Well, the only thing I could speak to at this point is the applications that would come before me. And with those, the ones that I get, there may be other licensing that may not have to go through me. I'm not familiar with all the licensing with the ABC. But the ones that come before me do have an area where they have to account for people checking IDs, what's their security plan, and things of that nature.
So that's all of that is on them?
All that's on there that would come before me. And if I had a question about impact on parking or anything, if it went outside the facility, I could address that with the applicant.
I just wanted to clarify that the only applications that go first before the chief, and then it's for you when I sign, I'm signing on your behalf, are the only ones that are the sale of alcohol. This doesn't cover someone having a wedding and serving alcohol to their guests, just so I think it's a little even confusing in the ordinance.
Yes.
You're not going to be made aware of that through the ABC process. You'd have to be asked to be made aware of that some other way. The chief and I sign off on catering permits when they're bringing an outside caterer in that has a liquor license, and then also on social affair permits. That's like the wine festival, raising money for an approved organization. But if it's someone's private party, we're not going to be aware
For that, no.
through this process.
Okay. Do you have any concerns over something like that, Chief?
Generally speaking, I don't. I remember when they used to have functions there years ago. Again, as long as we're made part of that process at some point, if there's going to be a large event, I think it can be managed. And again, I remember years ago when they used to have functions like that, and I don't remember too many issues with that.
Aside from the clarifications that Rita pointed out, are there other areas of concern that you have? Since you did mention you thought it was, and I'm speaking to you, Bob.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You did mention you thought it might be a work in progress or something that was going to be worked on in the future. Are there other areas of concern that you have?
I think that if we were to work with the county on the social events, things that were weddings where they're not selling alcohol, but they're providing it.
Serving it, yeah.
And that the county would agree that there would be adequate coverage under those circumstances, which I think they would. And that's something that we could deal with them on. My only concern is always liability. $2 million is a healthy policy. For a one-day event, it's not that costly. And if we could compel the county to consider that with respect to the social events, that would be a good thing. Other than that, in terms of premises liability, people getting hurt by a condition on the property, that's not us, that's the county. So as I sit here, there's nothing more I can think of other than those two examples.
Well, you mentioned the $2 million on social events. Apparently that doesn't apply to social events right now.
I don't know. Look, I didn't draft the ordinance. I read it, and Rita and I dealt with it. But that's certainly something that, even if it's not spelled out specifically, that I could address with county council. And I think that you could say in your recommendation, so long as the insurance requirement applies to social events that are not the sale of alcohol but providing alcohol, then you support it. You could condition your support on that.
This is a sale of a ticket to an event there.
I don't think that's a sale of alcohol. I think the sale of alcohol is when you walk up to the bar and you give them money for a cocktail.
Cash bar.
So this ordinance doesn't allow that?
We don't know that, do we?
Doesn't allow,
Cash bar.
Sale of alcohol for consumption.
it does if it's a licensed,
This ordinance allows either.
yeah.
Either for a party or the sale.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is that if you condition your recommendation, whatever that means, on making sure that each event is adequately covered through the same type of coverage, I think you answer all those questions.
And even if whether we approve this or not, they're going to go ahead with it. Is that correct?
They have the authority to do that without your position.
They just wanted us to be aware and comment on it, I would imagine, yeah.
Well, could we just make a
Well,
statement that we have no
I think it's more of a courtesy than anything else,
Yeah.
John. I think they want Stacy's office and Rita's office to know what's happening and what they want to do there.
Exactly.
The chief has to police the streets. Rita has certain authority as a local, kind of the ABC agent that signs off on some of these things. So it's more of a courtesy than anything else, but we are in fact a host community. And I would in fact strongly recommend that if you're going to approve a recommendation, it be conditioned upon coverage for all events.
The Merchants Association had to provide a $2 million liability policy for when they had the wine fest there. That was requested. So,
And we might also, in our recommendation, indicate that we anticipate further communication with them on this.
I would agree with that.
yeah, I don't think that, like we said, doesn't require a vote. It's, I would say that we just mention back to the county that we would like to be kept in the loop on any further changes, as Rodney said, or anything new that comes up on
We
this.
have no objection. They're going to pass
Yeah.
this ordinance
Yeah,
anyhow.
that we have no objection, but we would like to be kept in the circle, in the loop of any changing information that comes up, so that our township clerk and police department are aware of what's going on, that type of language.
And that we would strongly recommend that any event there that dealt with alcohol would have the same coverage of $2 million and would name not only the county as a named additional
But
insured,
the
but the township.
Yeah.
And if that's what you choose to do, I'll put that in writing to them tomorrow.
We can do that.
Yes, I think
probably-
that's
probably-
absolutely
That's good.
worth doing, yes.
They'll have it before tomorrow night. Their meeting's tomorrow night?
Yeah, meetings tomorrow.
They'll have it before the meeting.
All right.
You're going to work tomorrow?
I am now.
Now you are, right?
So we have a situation here where this is pretty much an open, they can pretty much have any kind of event they want. They can serve alcohol there. And we all know events that have alcohol, there could be problems. What is our recourse if there is an event that we, whether it's the chief of police or a township committee or anybody, deems that this event was detrimental to the citizens of Hamilton Township? What is our recourse to say, that can't happen again?
You'd have to petition the freeholders. But again, most of what I do for a living is I represent victims who are injured in accidents that deal, some of them with alcohol. I'm intimately aware of the dram shop statutes in this state. If $2 million of coverage was afforded, that's a very comfort high level. And if we're the named added insured, there's two duties under the policy. One is to indemnify in the event of a verdict or settlement, and the other is to provide a defense. A defense means not only just attorney's fees, but if appropriate, experts, toxicologists. So that's why I'm suggesting that anything you do, you condition on a $2 million policy with us as a named added insured.
Could I just ask, could you give an idea, since we don't own the park, it's a county facility, what kind of liabilities would we be concerned about?
There's a lot of creative lawyers out there. And anytime you're named in a suit, it costs you money. And anytime the JIF rates you each year, we've been fortunate because our JIF has operated very well. Ingrid is our person here, and Mike. And our cost of insurance through the joint insurance fund is based on experience. If I can persuade the county to make them institute a process where we're the named insured, we just saved the JIF a whole lot of money. And I think they'd be very happy with that. Can I compel them to do it? No. Can I try to make them do it as best I can? Yeah.
It's not an unreasonable request, though.
No, I don't think so.
The added endorsement is very inexpensive.
I know.
I would assume, though, just for the purposes of my own edification, that if there's an accident or something happens, let's say it's because of the condition of one of our roads, that someone suffers on the way to the event, that would not be covered by that policy, right? We're still as liable as we were before.
You're exactly right, it would not.
Yeah.
Going to and coming from are separate events that are beyond the control of the folks running the event at the park. However, New Jersey has one of the strongest tort claims act in the nation. And you have to prove palpably unreasonable conduct. And there are a series of immunities under that act. And if it's a discretionary function, that's one thing. If it deals with not having sufficient funds to do all of the roads, there's another whole immunity that applies. So there is protection there, Rodney.
So is the consensus then that we say that back to the county that we have no objection, however, our solicitor will contact them asking us to be named on the insurance policy as an additional insured for Hamilton Township?
If I may change that a little bit.
Sure, please do.
That you would not object to it so long as, and this is the vote of the four of you present,
Right.
the county would institute a policy covering the township as well as the county for $2 million for every event.
Good. That's enough.
Okay. I think that's good. Do we need to vote on this, you think?
You do.
Okay. All right. Someone
Do you
want to
need
make a motion?
and second?
I'll make
Yep.
that motion.
Roger, go ahead.
Second.
Rodney, we have a motion and a second. Rita, could we get a roll call on this?
Yes, Mr. Gishard,
Yes.
Mr. Shanker,
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz.
Yes.
All yes and carry.
D, 3D, repealing the political contribution limit ordinance will be ordinance 1867-2017 if introduced.
Excuse me.
Rod, you want to make a comment on this? I know.
This ordinance was put in effect back in 2008, and while all of the decisions at that time were honorable and moving in the right direction and trying to keep things on a level playing field, what we're finding over time is that the underlying goals are not being met. We have a lot of things happening during the campaigns from opposition that we're getting a lot of extreme amount of money from out-of-county interested parties who are donating a lot of money to opposition, and what we're finding in many cases is not being reported in a way in which seems to find a loophole to get around this whole thing. When you look at it, and I know several of us have been the victim of this over the last several elections, what it's done is change the whole playing field, and what we're trying to do is repeal this ordinance and just go with the pay-to-play ordinance that exists in the state now.
I understand your concerns, and I'm not sure what you mean when you say opposition, but
Well, opposition means the opposite of what we are. If we represent
Yeah,
one
well,
party and there's an opposition, it's the other
I
party.
think it affects both parties, but in any event, my question is, how does this resolve that situation? This wouldn't,
Plain English makes it very simple. If, for example, if you don't report all the things that went on in your election because some out-of-county organization or some large PAC or some funneling organization found a way to go around and pay for all of this,
I understand that, but the
then it
question
puts
is,
us as a disadvantage.
I
Now,
don't see how this,
I don't see the
rectifies that.
elect commission monitoring any of this the way they should be.
I feel it just simply is repealing this ordinance like it says, and it refers back to the state guidelines. That's it. That's it.
I move that we introduce this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard,
I am going to, I guess, abstain or vote no, because I'm not clear as to what this is actually accomplishing and what purpose it serves. So I guess I'll have to vote no, because
No.
I can't
Okay.
abstain. Okay.
Up to you, sir. Mr. Shanker?
Just one comment. This ordinance or this set of rules that's been used by a lot of towns, including the county, for many years, back when this was a movement to do this. Since then, many of the towns, including the county, have done away with it. So we are really just following suit to that organization. Due to the fact that the county has done away with it, it has brought on this funnel of money through county organizations that are taking advantage of the situation. And it's an avenue for them to pump money into a town like ours. It allows them to more or less buy elections, or try to. And that, I don't think that's right for the people in this town, this township. I don't think it's right for anybody who's involved in an election. I think the interest of Hamilton Township should remain with the people who live in Hamilton Township, and not professionals from around the state, Gloucester and Camden County and other places that have interests that do not have this town at heart. So I think that, doing away with this is kind of putting us in the modern day time as far as elections are concerned. So I will vote yes.
I completely concur with goals and some of the things you said, but I don't see how this prevents what you just talked about. I don't see anything here that prevents that.
We can't prevent it, Rodney.
Well, I'm saying repealing this, I don't know how repealing this helps.
It eliminates it and sends it back to the state guidelines
It
that were
applies
set up.
equally
How
to
does it
all.
eliminate it, though? I don't see anything here that would.
The state guidelines are a little bit different than what
Well, my vote
we
reason-
adopted here and the reasons we adopted
All
it.
right, the state guidelines, we were following the state, we have to follow the state
Yes,
guidelines, do we not?
yes,
So
and then-
we're already following those state guidelines.
Right.
What this
And
was
then
supposed to
some.
do, what this was supposed to do was put additional restrictions on contributions.
And that's what we're repealing.
I'm ready to vote now, Rita.
Thank you.
I don't
I'll
understand.
give
Got
you my
one and
vote.
one on the floor.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Pay-to-play has created loopholes that became advantageous for out-of-county politicals who seek to control the destiny of the local politics. That statement that all politics is local doesn't mean anything anymore, the way things are being run. And I think a lot of this will come out further down the line when you see what some of the reporting has been. If you want to get an answer to it, you read the political contribution limits of the ordinance, look at the ordinance the way it was presented here, and open up your mind to see the way things have been happening, and go on elect and start looking at things, and I think you'll learn a lesson that maybe won't open yours eyes or anybody else's, but it's opened ours, and my vote is yes.
I understand your vote. Do you mind, can we continue to discuss this?
No, we had the
We have a
discussion.
motion on the floor. We really should finish voting on the motion.
Well, there is a period of discussion, isn't there?
Okay, go ahead.
The purpose of this was to close some of the restrictions, some of the loopholes that were open before. We are required to follow state guidelines, and we're doing that, and we'll have to continue doing it. This was to tighten those restrictions. Now, if you repeal this, I don't see how that's accomplishing any of the goals
Do
that you're
yourself
talking
a
about.
favor. You've got a computer at home?
Yes, I
Go
do.
look up all the elect reports over the last couple of years, and you'll see. You'll see,
That-
and you'll
that
see
doesn't-
even of the latest one, the amount of mailers that went out that don't even show on the elect report of that individual, and how they can run an election spending all that money and not reporting it when most of the money came from 2 other counties, you tell me.
The-
So you know how it fits, and it has a lot of an impact on who's running this town. The voters are the out-of-county people.
This has nothing to do with that.
All
It
right.
doesn't loosen any restrictions.
Just do some homework.
You do the homework.
I did it.
And let's stop playing games with this. The
Well,
reason
we
these
have,
restrictions-
we have a vote. We're going to call for the
All right,
vote. Rita, would
okay.
you finish the roll call, please?
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
So 3 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Thank you. And this will go up now and on the next agenda, I believe we'll have this opened up for public comment.
Yes.
Yes, okay? Where it can be addressed.
That's good.
Okay. We're at introduction of ordinances now. I'm sorry, public hearing, adoption of ordinances, there are none. 5A, introduction of ordinances. A, ordinance 1866-2017, an ordinance authorizing sale of lots 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 in Block 395 as shown on the tax map of the Township of Hamilton and granting to the owner or owners of said real property contiguous to the same the right of prior refusal to purchase such land in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, and State of New Jersey. Mike, did you want to comment on this for me?
Yes, sir, Mayor. This is located at 6853 Melvin Newton Boulevard, and it's a minimum bid of $300.
Okay, yeah, I have no other questions, or committee, anything else on this?
No.
We'll call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Schenker?
Yes?
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried. The public hearing will be at the second meeting in December. I'm sorry that's not on there, but the public hearing is set for the next meeting.
Okay,
Okay, thank
great,
you.
thank you for bringing that up, mentioning that. And we have 6, award of bids, contracts, change orders. A, award contract to Electronic Recycling International, ERI, in the amount of $2,450 for the calendar year 2018 for the monthly collection of TVs, computers, and e-waste, and authorize the mayor to sign the same. Ingrid, would you like to just, I'm sorry, go ahead,
A
Mike.
comment. We've received an updated contract, and it's actually going to be zero cost to the township.
Well, that's good news.
No cost to us to enter into this.
What was
how-
that, Michael?
We just received an updated contract, and it's zero cost to the township.
Well, I love zero cost. Can you elaborate on how that transpired?
Well, I'll let Ingrid elaborate on how, but
Yeah, fill us in. We love zero.
zero is good.
Can we make some money on it?
Well, we actually do make a little bit of money on it. What happens is monthly, we have a drop-off for televisions and electronic items at our Public Works yard. First Saturday of the month, 9 to noon. Got to put that out there.
Good.
But
I was there.
we divert anywhere between 30 and 40 tons of electronics from our waste stream every year, and that saves us those tipping fees. We also get credit for that on our recycling tonnage report each year, and that brings money into the township to enhance our recycling efforts. The state of New Jersey, for the last few years, has had a law in place that is supposed to make the manufacturers responsible for the cost of recycling these electronics. And that has been implemented, I want to be nice, but in a little bit of a clumsy way, so that the manufacturers haven't been putting in all the money to this pot for these recyclers that they were supposed to get. And it's now starting to work properly, so the folks who are doing this recycling are receiving the money from the manufacturers, are now able to offer this service to municipalities at a free cost, like they're supposed to.
Well, that's great news.
So it's a great program. People, sometimes people have questions about whether, they have to worry about their computers, or everything gets wiped and everything gets demanufactured, and it's all done here in the state of New Jersey. So it doesn't get farmed out to China or in any other countries that would work with it. So it's all done here.
So it's the benefit of the amount of recycling and the electronics that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you then for getting the word out to the right people and getting the
Okay.
township to take the recycling of electronics out there. That's really important.
Oh, it is.
Interesting. I was there Saturday dropping off something, and I seen someone come in that rented a truck and was taking off a number of items that they were putting on pallets. I mean, it was a resident.
Oh, really? Yeah.
They cleaned out every room in their house and everybody else's.
a lot of it, especially this time of year. People
Yeah,
are
yeah.
making room for the new that comes in during the holidays. So
Great.
now in January are busy times.
Just one point of clarification, Ingrid, did you say that the equipment the electronics were wiped? That the
Yes,
drives, for
everything
example, are
everything
wiped?
is demanufactured. There's no chance of anybody getting any information.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
So this,
Bob, there's no need
so
to
there's no
award
charge, right?
then.
That's correct.
So we have
No
that in
charge.
writing, so we don't have to do anything, or
Well, it's
just,
still a contract, yeah.
but still got to do a contract for no charge?
Consideration for a contract.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I would
that's what I
suggest
thought.
that you put $1.
$1.
Okay. That's what we're going to do then. It's okay to,
$1 and other good, valuable consideration.
okay.
I'll move that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6B, resolution authorizing the purchase of Solar Tech Silent Messenger 3 message board from Garden State Highway Products in the amount not to exceed $18,870. Chief, could you talk a little bit about this? I know that we definitely need another board, yeah, but if you could.
We originally had 2 signboards and one was a radar board. Our old one went down, it can't be repaired, so we want to replace that with a board that can be both a signboard and also a radar board, dual function, and also help us with road projects. So it's a joint purchase between our department and Public Works.
Public Works, yeah. No, okay, that's great. Thank you for.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does this come with a guarantee? The other one went down. I don't know how long it's been in operation.
The other one was in operation for, I want to say, 12, 13 years.
Had wooden wheels.
They
right?
just, they couldn't replace the parts on it anymore. Brett, right? You know more about the inner workings than I do. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chief. Thanks. Committee, we need a motion to
I'll
move
make
the
that motion.
resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
6C, reject bid for skilled carpentry received from Warner's Construction Incorporated, bid 2017-13. Mike?
Bob's got it.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, Bob, thank you.
Only one bid was received, and the bid specification called for hard dollar amounts. And there were line items with respect to the hard dollar amounts, but there were 5 footnotes. And one of the footnotes says, subject, however, to an increase in the union contract. Now, what that does is it takes control of the contract away from us and puts control in the hands of the bidder. I declared that to be a material alteration, and I believe that you're obligated for that reason and that reason alone to reject this bid. There were other provisions in the footnotes that I outlined in an opinion letter to Dorothy Gallagher that were equally offensive. And the way that you have to look at this is, even though there was one bid, there's still people out there that could challenge the bid. They would have what's called standing to challenge the bid. And you have to ask yourself, is it possible that there was another potential bidder out there that didn't put in a bid because they believed it could change based on a union contract? And that's how you have to view these things in terms of the local public contract law. I believe it's a material alteration. I believe you have no alternative but to reject the bid.
Okay.
Now, having said that, as I said in my opinion letter, you may wish to suggest that when the bid documents go out again, that you make arrangements for that in the bid documents. And if you did that, it would be acceptable. But under the bid, comparing the bid specifications to this bid, I believe you have no alternative but to throw this bid out.
Makes sense.
Okay. So we need a motion to reject this bid and rebid.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard? Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and
Mike,
carried.
would you make sure it goes out the way that Bob said?
Great. 7, consent agenda. A, approved business registration licenses. There are none. So we're looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items B through N.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
8, personnel. Appoint Arthur Train as temporary full-time special law enforcement officer, Class 2, effective January 1st, 2018, not to exceed 11 months.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
B, appoint James Sakers as Class 2 Special Law Enforcement Officer at $19 per hour, contingent upon successful completion of the background process.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, appoint Daniel Kelly as part-time building inspector at an hourly rate of $25 an hour effective 12/11/17, contingent upon successful completion of the background check and pre-employment physical.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
D, appoint Paul Graham III as part-time communications officer in the police department at $15.30 per hour, contingent upon the successful completion of the background process.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Item E, appoint Patricia Daly as a part-time records clerk for the police department at $14.92 per hour, contingent upon successful completion of the background process.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Accept the resignation of Carl Patali, zoning board member, 4-year term expiring 12/31/20.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
G, appoint Anthony Johnson as a temporary full-time laborer at an hourly rate of $15.30 an hour effective 12/6/17, contingent upon successful completion of background check and pre-employment physical.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Number 9, approvals. Minutes of November 13th, regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain. B, minutes of November 13th, 2007, executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can we have a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, payrolls and bills. Bill list totaling $1,618,580.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Rita, could we have a roll call on that?
Yes, Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Shanker?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Kurtz?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
10, reports. Mike?
Nothing to add to my written report.
Mike, before you, how are we doing with the investigation into third-party inspectors? You still got some more work to do on it?
Yeah, yes. I've done some work on it, but I still have more to do.
Hopefully, we can come to some options, give us some options, at least moving into the new year. You know, between, I know you've had some challenges filling some of the spots in there. And, you know, what we have to do is try to get that to a point where we can take care of what the need is on the outside with these permits, inside too. So hopefully that'll give us some leeway in that, okay?
Yes.
Bob?
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think I've already talked too much tonight, so I'll be very brief. I think that the activity that you had tonight with respect to the public hearing on this property for the tax exemption is evidence that the actions that you took, that the Planning Board and the Industrial Commission recommended, is successful. I hope to report in the January meeting about another project that's coming up in the industrial park that, in my estimation, would not have occurred but for this program.
Absolutely.
And there's good things happening, there's activity happening, and we're finally able to compete with the folks that have similar abatement programs in South Jersey. So I'm very pleased about that. Other than that, I have nothing to report.
I ask a question.
Ronnie?
I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, it was mentioned that there was some very positive, potentially very positive buyer for the property over the industrial park. What's the status of that? Has there been further development on that, or is this what you're referring to?
The status is that there's a certain confidentiality that runs with that agreement that has not come to fruition yet.
Okay.
I have a very strong feeling that it's going to work. I have a very strong feeling that it's going to be a very, very big and positive thing. I am constrained to say anything more about it than that.
Okay.
But I believe that in January, I will be directed by you to make an application to the planning board for a subdivision to facilitate that project. And I think that's about all I can tell you at this point.
Isn't that why we approved the extension at the last meeting?
Pardon me?
We approved and accepted the extension at the last
You
meeting,
did.
right?
You did, you did.
Thank you.
I would be pleased to tell you the whole story. I really would, but not yet.
We can't go there, no.
Not yet.
Anything else, Bob? No?
That's it.
Okay, great. Kevin, our engineer.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, just one highlight from our report. As you know, the road program is well underway. As of about noon tomorrow, it'll be about 2/3 complete. Dannenhauer has been prepped, and weather permitting will be paved and completed tomorrow.
Great.
So that'll bring to about 2/3 the extent of the road program completed to date. Hopefully, we will have the remainder in the next 2 weeks after that.
Is Dannenhauer the one that's the completed section?
That is, it's been prepped and it's ready for paving tomorrow morning, weather permitting. We're trying to get in ahead of this weather that's coming in.
Yeah, that's coming in, yeah.
As of tomorrow afternoon, we expect some weather to get nasty for a few days, and we're going to try to beat that weather. Once that happens, we'll be about 2/3 done.
Okay. Another question, as part of that discussion, we were out on Hoover Drive. We met out there, and they were going to do some patching on some work out there as when they had the equipment at Dannenhauer. Is that still planned?
We might be able to accomplish that mainly because it was they're coming in under the tonnage, so we're under budget at this point. And ahead of schedule, frankly. So
Okay.
we may be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, one of the residents out there called on that, and I was just
Glad you
curious to
brought
give
that
them
up.
an answer. Okay, great.
Kevin, what did you think? They'll be able to lay asphalt first thing in the morning, right?
First thing tomorrow morning
Figures 6-7 hours?
through about lunchtime.
Yeah, okay.
Can you comment, Kevin, about the Route 50 improvements? It's great to see them, but how long have we been aware that, I guess that's been scheduled a long time ago, I guess.
They don't consult with the township. It's a state improvement. And
Yeah, I
they
hadn't
they
heard
don't let
anything
us
about
know.
it.
I'm sorry, which project?
The Route 50 improvements.
50.
Yeah, I've been sending out emails with status.
Yeah, lately, yes, we know that, but I think in the long term, I wasn't aware, let's say, 3 or 4 months ago, or I don't know whether anybody was here, whether we'd been advised on that. And,
Well, the committee was advised on the fact that they were doing ADA improvements at the intersections because they actually started them a while back and then came back and to finish them up, coming down to the north on 50. No, that's a good point.
Which is what they're doing.
With regard to those improvements, do you happen to know whether they're going to have the rumple strips on the side of the road? Someone told me that that's no longer being done. Do you have an update on
Well, they
that?
haven't consulted us. They haven't consulted our office or the township on the scope of that. So they haven't been. They have not provided us that information.
Well, I was understood that may be a state policy. I'll try to get an update on that then.
Yeah, we haven't.
They were causing problems. The ones on the side of the road, not in the middle of the road.
Understood.
You know, Kevin, we're taking a beating for what they're doing on Main Street.
Oh,
Big time.
And then I hear they're not going to pave that road when they're done?
That's
They're
what
only going to patch it?
That's what I'm left with.
They're rushing to spend all this money on 40 and 50 because it's the end of a budget year.
Yeah.
Why can't they find ways to pave that?
Yeah, they're squeezing it in and
I mean, more people have
doing it on the fly.
expressed their anger to me over what's going on, let alone the merchants on Main Street. It's not fair.
and it's the sudden closure without notification as well.
Mhm.
And I hate to say this, I mean, it's great to have Route 50 repaved, but I'll tell you what, I think there's some state roads in much greater need than Route 50. And in
No
fact,
argument.
turning off Route 50 onto 322, and 322 itself.
They're all in need, but I have
Yeah.
no argument with that.
Well, now that they've been pumping 23 cents into the Transportation Trust Fund since they since they raised the gas, now they're eager to spend the money before the end of the year. That's my
I hope
look at
this
it,
isn't
you
the
know?
methodology going forward, though, but I do agree that I think they're looking for a place to put that.
Yeah, I
by the
think
end of the
so,
year.
yeah. There's an awful lot of sudden projects kicking up with very little notification is what's happening.
Very little to no notice.
Yep. Anything else, Kevin?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. Township Committee members, I'll start off. I just want to reiterate on the Main Street. Not only sitting as mayor, but I have a business on the Main Street. I conversed directly with a gentleman at the state when they put the first map out. The first map showed Main Street, it showed red and green, go, stop. It showed the Main Street shut down. And I called the state and I said, I told the gentleman, you have a terrible map and you need to redo it. And we talked a little bit, and I was in the administrator's office, and he was referring to the map while sitting in Trenton. And the comment he made was, one of the comments I made to him was, Pennington Avenue is closed on your map. I said, are you aware that that's a dead-end street? And if you close that street, you can't have people access that road. He said, that's not a dead-end street. I'm looking at it on the map. And I said, I live there. I have a business on the corner. It's a dead-end street. So obviously, we had it changed where they took that sign away, and they also opened Main Street. Originally, Main Street was scheduled to be closed down. They opened Main Street up to Farragut, where you can turn right or left. It doesn't take the pain away, though, because obviously, turning right on Farragut Avenue when you're heading east, and to come out to the debacle you have at River Road is a nightmare, and I'm sure all our residents are experiencing that. You almost can't make a left on the River Road if you're trying to get out of town. It's very difficult. But more bad news came down too from the state that the project is now, that was supposed to be over on December 8th, is now going to be between Christmas and New Year's. The reason for this, I'm being told, is that the maps that show the laterals that go into businesses in connections like water, gas, sewage, are on an old map, and what they're running into is that they're finding connections that aren't even on the map. They've already broken a couple gas mains, gas lines going into properties. So the state has issued an order to them that they hand dig those holes. I spoke with one of the guys from the state today, right on site, and he took me over and showed me the holes he was referring to down just between Birches and Linwood Avenue. That lines, they just don't know whether or not it's an active line, it's a dead line, and that maps aren't giving them that direction. So now they have to hand dig everything and get the gas company to come in, or the MUA to say, no, that's not an active line, you can cut it in order to get your drain in. So there's a lot of issues there, and believe me, it's a nightmare on Main Street, I call it. But it's really a bad situation. But there's nothing I can see right now in making that change after talking with the state representative. And it's hard for all businesses that are on Main Street right now, particularly through the holiday season. And I don't know what the results are, other than them saying that they're going to have to take a little extra time now to get it done. And then the latest news today through our administrator was that they don't want to pave Main Street after the job is over. They only want to patch it. We're going to fight that really hard. I'm going to get on a phone with these people, and through the administrator, we're going to go wherever we have to see that it's get paved. When they started that project, it was a new road, just paved, curb to curb, brand new road. Everybody was saying what a great job Main Street is. And then they came in and tore it up, and now tell us that they won't be paving it, only patching it. So our deputy mayor brought up a good point when I spoke of this earlier, that a lot of it has to do with the asphalt plants, and if I'm correct, Art, and they might be closing down because of cold weather, and that could be a reason. But the idea is we need to get some language together with these folks, some kind of discussion on the fact that they will pave that road curb to curb and when they're available, Kevin. That's where I'm looking at this, and the administrator too. So
Coordinate that, Mayor.
yeah, I would appreciate that. We're really going to push back on this because I think we need to have that street. It was in perfect condition, and we understand the need of the drain pipe that collapsed. They have to repair it, or otherwise the issue would have been severe flooding in a storm from Linwood Avenue to Farragut, in front of businesses, the gas station, Birch's, some of the homes there. So it had to be done, but there's no excuse for not putting it back the way it was.
Oftentimes what they'll do is let the trench settle when they do underground work.
Right.
And then come back in a year and pave it. That's what we're
Well-
going to get locked in.
And most likely, that's what's going to happen, because the timing is not, there's no time.
It's not good timing.
They'll be lucky to get enough asphalt to patch it.
It's too narrow and it's too busy a
Right.
road not to
Yep.
pave that. Leave it a trench restoration like that.
Can I ask who's responsible for mapping those streets? Apparently they weren't properly mapped. Whose responsibility is that? And what's being done to assure that doesn't happen again?
An age-old problem, Rodney. It just goes back. We deal with that every day.
Well, who's responsible for it?
Dislocated utilities. It could be any one of a number of parties. Depends on who was responsible to map it in the first place. The contractor that built the road, the contractor that installed the utility, that should have mapped it and provided that map to the utility company. That could have been the utility company itself making a repair.
Well, is it not in our interest to make sure that we don't have a repeat of this and finding out who's responsible and making sure it gets mapped?
Definitely in our interest. It's another thing to be able to track that down for every utility and every road and on every job.
So, Mr. Administrator, what can we do about that?
I don't know what you can do with some of these older roads. I mean, I don't think you could afford to go in and redraw. First off, only thing information you would have is what they locate. And
Somebody's
problem is
gotta
out
be
there is that it's
responsible
being
for it, though.
located wrong
Who
as
owns
well.
the road? State road, right?
This is a state road, yeah.
They're not responsible to provide that information to the
No.
township. The township has no access.
It's public information, isn't it? If they map the road, that's public information.
You could go up and Oprah information from the files of DOT to try to get that information, and then go map that on an independent effort. Who's doing that? That's the problem.
Well, I think it's in our interest to find out and do what we can to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Definitely in the township's interest.
Right.
Question is, who's doing that?
Sure.
Effort.
The gentleman from the state did tell me that if it wasn't for this problem they just encountered with these laterals and not knowing whether these lines were open or closed or old lines or what, that they would have been out of there before December 8th. They would have been out of there almost now. The job would be completed.
Dislocated utilities are probably the number one reason for roadway delays.
And that's exactly what this situation is right now. Yeah.
They're tearing up Route 50. Well, I say tearing up. They've been putting these gas line flags in. It must be now for 4 or 5 months. They put them in and leave them there. If you want to mow your lawn, if you want to clear the leaves, you've got to carefully pull that out, put it back in. When are they going to use those? Obviously, they must have put them in because they plan to do something there, but it's been months. And you may not know, but
I have them in my yard.
yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about.
They just sit there.
Does anybody know what the plans are along Route 50?
A lot of times they're just doing work in the intersections, but the contractors find it easier just to say locate the entire road from this point to this point. So they may be putting flags in areas they have no intentions of doing work because they just called the whole section in because it's easier to do rather than just going out and marking in white the area that you're going to actually do your work. So that's probably why there's flags out there that aren't getting any work done on them because they do that all the time.
What happens is if you try to mow your lawn or clear leaves or anything else, you've got to, cite those and put them back, and it's a real nuisance. And it seems never to end. All right.
Well, on a lighter note, the Merchants Association had another event on Saturday. Was Dickens of a Holiday. There were about 100 vendors, being told by Fred Nebel and the organizers that there was about 100 vendors between the library, the Presbyterian Church, and the park. By around in the morning when the chill got gone away and the sun came out, it was a nice day in the park. Santa was there. It was a good crowd, a really good crowd, and all three locations had people. And it's just another effort on the Merchants Association's part that we'd like to thank for bringing people into town, and especially with the traffic situation the way it was, to still have a nice turnout. It was good to see that. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Roger?
I agree with your comments on the Dickens of a Holiday. It was, a lot of people commented that's why they like the community, because there's always nice events going on in that park. You know, it started it begins throughout the year. And I think one of the highlights too was the tree lighting after Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was well attended. Park looks fantastic. The amount of hours that Public Works has put into that and decorating everything is outstanding, Brett. And, you know, our compliments to your department for a great job, and people love it. And I think that has a lot to do with the success of many of the events that come to our community. The other thing attended was the League of Municipalities the week before, and generally I like to go. There's so many vendors. You talk about vendors, John, at an event. You know, that's 3 football fields inside that convention hall. And I just walk up and down every aisle looking at the new equipment. And, you know, Stacy was talking earlier about the message boards, and what they have out there today is outstanding. I mean, you can talk to vendors from all over the country. Forget about getting your name and trying to sell you something. I think from my perspective, you learn about what's new and what's available. And you see the equipment that you're looking at going forward. The amazing thing is from year to year how much it changes. And, you know, that's significant. And but it's a great event, and I think everybody who goes there, they all go for different reasons, but it's quite a thing that they put on every year. That's it, John. Oh, yes, that's it.
Okay, great. Art?
Yeah, I'd like to also compliment the Public Works. They did a great job on the park. It looks beautiful, and I hate putting up Christmas lights, so I can imagine how long that took.
Yes.
Sorry, Santa, but I do.
It is beautiful.
I didn't get a chance to go to the event over the weekend. I was sick, so unfortunately I spent a couple days on the couch. But I appreciate the Merchants Association and what they do, and bringing the community together. And it's, again, it's one of the reasons why a lot of people live here, continue to live here. That's what makes you proud to be part of this community. So I appreciate what you guys do. The other comment I want to make is, you know, we complain when they don't fix our roads, and now we're going to complain when they fix our roads. And unfortunately, especially when it comes to the state, they really don't care whether you're ready for them to fix the road or not. They're coming in, and the fact is that they have a lot of money to use up in a short period of time to do it. And the other issue is where they had the problem down on Main Street, and it all seemed to come together at one time.
Yeah.
Just to comment on the little flags, Rodney, the reason they do that is because it's a state law, and you have to call and get a mark out if you're going to dig. If you dig somewhere and you hit up utility line, the fines are huge.
No, I understand that.
So what they do is when you call them, they have about 8,000 questions about what you're digging and how you're going to dig and the radius of where you're going to dig. So most people who are on the responsible end of that, they'll say, well, I'm going to dig from here and then 100 yards down, even though he's digging a hole right here, just to keep the responsibility off of them. That's why you get 1,700 flags in an area where they're only digging in a small area, because they're trying to make sure that they're not responsible, because those fines are heavy. And again, you dig up a gas line, it defines the least of your worries. So unfortunately, this is part of the construction repairs that people hate because they're inconvenient. Again, we will stay on top of this road situation down on Main Street. I've spoke to Senator Brown, or Senator-elect Brown's office about talking to some people in the state and make sure we stay on top of this repair. That road was brand new when all this happened, and now there's holes on both sides, and it's a mess, and we all know it, and we're not gonna let them get away with it. We'll keep on them and make sure that they do the right thing, and that's all I got, John.
Okay, thank you. Public comment. Is there anyone in the public would wish to speak? Harry, can you come on up?
I didn't get a chance to say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rodney. Hold on for a minute. I forgot Rodney. Rodney, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Regarding Art's comments, I understand and agree with the comments. So my only comment is that they do this seems to be months in advance, and then nothing happens. If they did it in some reasonable period of time, it would certainly help.
Yeah, but Rodney, they don't come back and get the flags when it's all over either. The company that puts them in, they don't come back and get them. They just stay there forever until they're rusted and they fall over.
You don't know whether they're even needed or not.
Right, you're right.
Oh, my goodness. I too attended a League of Municipality, and it's always just a fascinating event. There are literally scores of lectures and seminars, and as was said, the convention area is huge. I don't know how you managed to walk through that whole thing. You get a lot of
shape. They can still hold me up.
All right, good.
So
You
I
got plenty of great exercise then.
3 football fields.
Yeah, it's big, and mind-boggling. There are many interesting events there. There was a complete streets seminar, and that was very interesting. I'm a little concerned that they seem to be adding requirements onto what they consider a complete streets policy. In fact, they were talking about now is complete and green streets, although hopefully we can make it in before that applies to us. There was a very interesting presentation on the 5G telephone system, which we're gonna see pretty soon, and if you can believe what they say about this is Verizon's 5G. It's going to really revolutionize our communications. It's supposed to increase speeds by a factor approaching 100. It's going to be so fast that they're talking about using it on automobiles to communicate with one another in traffic, so they have to be pretty fast and pretty reliable. But it is beginning to happen. They're already improving the 4G systems, and we've been contacted by Verizon, I guess, to talk about franchise, and hopefully we'll see it in the not too distant future. The one problem that we're going to have, and it's a problem that we have now, particularly less urban portions of our community, and that is they're the last ones to get anything. Now, fortunately, since we're the county seat, that's one of the considerations in who gets these new systems. So we have an advantage there. But we certainly don't have the economic base that other places have, and these things are going to be expensive. They're going to actually increase the number of transmitters, what do they say, by a factor of 10 to 100. You're going to have very small transmitters which will transmit over a small distance, but they'll have a tremendous bandwidth, and it's going to really improve communications. I also attended a meeting on open public policy, meetings policy, and that was very interesting. Some of the things that are being thought of, and some of the things that we're trying to get to change. Again, I'd like to certainly reflect the comments on Dickens of a Holiday. It was a very great event. I sat in on the green team, and it was great to see all the people from this town and other towns participate in the event. Really made you feel good. I'm wondering, as perhaps many of you are, about the new tax laws that go into effect, and the possibility, or maybe probability, that we're not going to be able to deduct our real estate taxes and other taxes anymore. That can have a big impact on our take-home pay, and I hope people are aware of it and express their feelings about it. I attended, this is the 20th year, and just about the 19th or 20th that I attended, it was South Jersey Professional Society Awards Ceremony. This time it was held down in the Hera and the Country Club in Summers Point, Great Bay Country Club. And there were at least a couple of hundred people there. This awards scientists and researchers and technologists awards for their achievements. And it's great to see the participation in South Jersey, and we're really seeing Rowan is getting a lot more involved in Stockton, as I understand, thinking about an engineering college. So it's really great to see that. We're moving along in that regard. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. Harry, can you come up now? Thanks.
For Harry Rogers, 1069 Morningside Drive. I'd like to comment on item 3, letter D, the repealing of the political contribution limit ordinance. Back in 2008, I was one of the very vocal proponents of this ordinance. I really thought it was a good way to keep politics local. It turned out to be a quixotic effort, because all it did was pretty much facilitate skullduggery and running, and it really should be eliminated. And I'm a little puzzled, Mr. Gashard, by your lack of understanding or inability to understand this particular problem, since it's yourself and your fellow travelers who benefit from this and running.
I object. That's not an appropriate statement. And the purpose of this, the reason it was put into effect in the first place, was to eliminate some of those problems. It was
It only made it worse.
well, it doesn't improve anything by
I'm partially responsible for that, and I apologize.
retracting. It doesn't improve anything. That's my only comment. All right.
Anyone else in the public wish to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion
Second.
to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, folks. Thank you.